Welcome to the Financial News Network. I'm Chuck Pierce. Today we're taking a look at the mining industry and one company that's making strides in South America. With me today is President and CEO of Panoro Minerals, Mr. Luquman Shaheen. Thanks for being with us today.
Well, thank you.
Now first, let's take a look at just Panoro Minerals in general. What is your company and what business are you in?
Panoro Minerals, we are a copper exploration company, and our focus is Peru. We have 14 different projects, all of them in Peru, 13 of them in the south-central part of the country. The company was founded as a private company in the mid-90s, and we went public in 2003. And in 2007, we acquired the projects which form the main investment focus for the company currently. And of those projects, the Cotabambas copper project is our flagship project. And we just announced some significant results related to the resource estimate just yesterday for Cotabambas.
All right, let's discuss the Cotabambas project. What is the specific announcement that you made?
Well, we announced yesterday the new resource estimate. When we acquired the project in 2007, our due diligence work estimated a 90 million ton resource at the project. And in 2010, we started a $10 million investment program into an exploration program at Cotabambas. And that exploration program, now all the drilling results and the assays from that investment have been included into a new geologic model, a new block model, and a new resource estimate. And we just announced yesterday a 400 million ton plus resource for the project.
All right, now taking a look at some recent news. Well, it happened back in May, but there was some anti-mining protest in Peru, and actually near your flagship, the Cotabambas project. And recently, what happened was that there was 2 deaths, and Peru called a state of emergency. And now a lot of people are saying that it might become the next Bolivia, who's had some problems with anti-mining protests. So what do you say to that?
Well, just to clarify, the protests that you're referring to in May were in the Espinar region in the southern part of Peru, which is roughly 150, 180 kilometers south of where our Cotabambas project is. And there was a number of large-scale protests that resulted in some violence and, as you mentioned, a couple of deaths. I look at what happened there and what has happened in a number of different locations in Peru recently and over the last 20 years as really a part of a longer process, an evolutionary process that's going on in Peru. Over the last 20, 25 years, the regulatory framework in Peru has developed very significantly, which has defined better how indigenous communities, local communities, the government and private companies, how they interact. And the country has gone through a large wave of development. And through this wave of development and the evolutionary process and the regulatory framework, with so much change going on, there is almost inevitably some level of turbulence that's created. I don't see what's happened in May or what's happened recently in the last 6 months or a year as much different than what has been going on in Peru over the last 20 years. Primarily, it's been a very stable political environment, very positive political environment for investment, but occasionally issues have arisen in different parts of the country. And realistically, going forward, that's probably likely to continue because there's a lot of change going on in the different parts of the country. Now, related to the comparison between Peru and Bolivia, I think it's worthy pointing out that culturally and historically, Peru is very different than Bolivia. Peru, during the Spanish colonial era, was the seat of the Spanish viceroy. So most business was conducted in Lima. Most business was transacted for taxation purposes, for payment to the crown, was conducted out of Lima, which resulted in a large number of aristocratic families from Spain during the colonial era settling in Peru. And Peru became a business community. The aristocratic families, they're business people. And you see that reflected in Peru now through its very rich private domestic mining sector. So there are a number of very large, very successful mining companies, Peruvian-owned, that operate throughout the country. So I would argue that Peru's history and the resulting impact on its culture make it very distinct from Bolivia, and distinct in that it has a long history of private enterprise. And I think Peru and Peru's business community and its politicians look more towards its southern neighbor, Chile, as a model for what the country can be like, rather than Bolivia or its northern neighbor, Ecuador.
All right, and what is your company doing specifically with local communities and the government to help alleviate these things that happen with the anti-mining protests?
Well, the issue of community relations, the focus of a company like ours, in Panoro, we're a relatively small company still, a very important project, but a small company. It's important for us to keep our focus local. We focus our community relations efforts locally. We have 3 different indigenous communities within the vicinity of our Cotabambas project, and our strategy is based on the relationships with the members of those communities. So more specifically, what we are doing, we typically spend 6 to 10% of our exploration budget in socioeconomic development in the project areas, which includes employment, includes assistance with education, with health care, and other infrastructure requirements for the communities. So we are developing our programs, keeping focused on the local issues and dealing and building our local relationships.
All right, and you have a lot more projects in Peru than just the Cotabambas one. Are there any other ones right now that your company is excited about?
Well, that's right. We have a large portfolio of projects, primarily in the southern part of the country. After Cotabambas, the next most advanced project for us is the Antilla copper molybdenum project. And that has a moderate-sized resource on it, 150 million ton resource. And we signed a joint venture agreement on that project in 2010. And through a lack of payment on our partner's part, we terminated the joint venture agreement. But unfortunately, our partner took us to an arbitration process to contest our termination of the JV agreement. We expect a resolution on that arbitration before the end of this month, September. Once that's completed, then that will become a renewed focus for the company. And aside from the Antilla project, we have 3 other projects where we will be investing some money in order to identify the next priority project for the company. Those 3 projects, 2 of them are copper projects, the Promesa copper project and the Cusiorco copper project. We also have a number of gold projects, and one of those, the Cochasaywas project, we will be doing some drilling during the course of this year in order to assess what the gold potential at that project might be. So we have a large number of projects, a lot of work to do, but quite clearly Cotabambas is our flagship project, and that's where the bulk of our investment is going.
All right, and lastly, for our investor audience, where are you listed? Your company is listed, and why do you think Panoro Minerals is a good investment?
Well, Panoro, our primary listing is on the TSX Venture Exchange. We have a secondary listing in Frankfurt, and we also are listed on the junior board of the Lima Exchange. So I'd like to emphasize that part of our listing in Lima is very important to us because we estimate between 25 and 30% of our shareholders are Peruvians. I'd also like to emphasize that all but 2 of our employees are Peruvian. 2 of our directors live in Peru, including a former Minister of Energy and Mines. So we are a very Peru-focused company. And why should people invest in Panoro? We are developing a world-class copper project in a very important country, Peru, and in a very important part of the country, Peru, in a region where there are a number of very large copper investment programs into large copper projects. And copper has a very bright outlook, and I think Peru has a very bright outlook, and we feel that we are still an undervalued company, and we have a lot of value that we will be adding, as demonstrated by our recent press release just yesterday, and a lot more value to come.
All right, great. Thank you for being with us today, Mr. Shaheen.
Thank you.
All right. And for other interviews like this, as well as other business news, check us out at fnno.com. This is the Financial News Network. I'm Chuck Pierce.